This is a continuation of the Epic of Gilgamesh, translated by Andrew George. This will contain tablets 5 through 8. Tablet 5, the combat with Humbaba. After admiring the mountain dens grown with cedar, the heroes draw their weapons and creep into the forest. Humbaba confronts them and accuses Enkidu of treachery. Enkidu urges swift action. Gilgamesh and Humbaba fight, and Shamash sends the 13 winds to blind Humbaba and win victory for his protege. Humbaba pleads for his life. Enkidu again urges haste, telling Gilgamesh to kill Humbaba before the gods find out. Humbaba curses the heroes, who promptly kill him and begin felling cedar in the sacred groves. From one especially magnificent cedar, Enkidu vows to make a great door to adorn the temple of the god Enlil. They stood there marveling at the forest, gazing at the lofty cedars, gazing at forest entrance where Humbaba came and went. There was a track. The path was straight and the way well trodden. They saw the mountain of cedar, seat of goddess and goddesses throne. On the face of the mountain, the cedar proffered its abundance. Its shade was sweet and full of delight. Thick, tangled was the thorn, the forest a shrouding canopy. Cedar, baluku trees. After a lacuna intervenes, the text continues, though it is not completely recovered. At once the dirks, and from the scabbards, the axes were smeared. Hatchet and dirk in one, they stole into Humbaba. Gilgamesh opened his mouth to speak, saying to Enkidu, "What, my friend, for Enlil?" Enkidu opened his mouth to speak, saying to Gilgamesh, "My friend, Humbaba, 1 to 1. 2 garments, however, even a glass's slope, 2, climbing can conquer. 2, a 3-ply rope is not easily broken. Even a mighty lion, 2 cubs can overcome." A fragment of this conversation is also preserved on a second Babylonian tablet from Tel Harmal. "We have come to a place where a man shouldn't go. Let us set our weapons in the gates of Humbaba," Enkidu declared to his friend. "A tempest onslaught is ferocious, Humbaba. Like the god of the storm, he will trample us down." When the text of Tablet 5 resumes, the heroes are face to face with the forest's guardian. Humbaba opened his mouth to speak, saying to Gilgamesh, "Let fools take counsel, Gilgamesh, with the rude and brutish. Why have you come here into my presence? Come, Enkidu, you spawn of a fish, who knew no father, hatchling of terrapin and turtle, who sucked no mother's milk. In your youth I watched you, but near you I went not. Would your have filled my belly? Now in treachery you bring before me Gilgamesh, and stand there Enkidu, like a warlike stranger. I will slit the throat and gullet of Gilgamesh. I will feed his flesh to the locust bird, ravening eagle and vulture." Gilgamesh opened his mouth to speak, saying to Enkidu, "My friend, Humbaba's features have changed. Though boldly we came up to his lair to defeat him, yet my heart will not quickly." Enkidu opened his mouth to speak, saying to Gilgamesh, "Why, my friend, do you speak like a weakling? With your spineless words, you make me despondent. Now, my friend, but one is our task. The copper is already pouring into the mold. To stoke the furnace for an hour, to the coals for an hour, to send the deluge is to crack the whip. Don't draw back, don't make a retreat, make your blow mighty." He smote the ground and faced him head on. At the heels of their feet, the earth burst asunder. They shattered as they whirled Mount Sirion and Lebanon. Black became the clouds of white, raining down on them like a mist, like death, like a mist. Shamash roused against Humbaba the mighty gale winds, south wind, north wind, east wind, and west wind, blast, counterblast, typhoon, hurricane, and tempest, devil wind, frost wind, gale, and tornado. There rose 13 winds, and the face of Humbaba darkened. He could not charge forward. He could not kick backwards. The weapons of Gilgamesh then reached Humbaba. In a plea for his life, said Humbaba to Gilgamesh, "You are so young, Gilgamesh. Your mother just bore you. But indeed you are the offspring of wild cow Ninsun. By Shamash's command, the mountains you flattened, O offshoot sprung from Ur's mist, Gilgamesh the king. Gilgamesh, a dead man, cannot, alive for his lord. Spare my life, O Gilgamesh. Let me dwell here for you in the forest of cedar. Trees as many as you command. I will guard you, myrtle, timber to be the pride of your palace." Enkidu opened his mouth to speak, saying to Gilgamesh, "Do not listen, my friend, to Humbaba's words. Ignore his supplications." Humbaba opened his mouth to speak, saying to Enkidu, "You are experienced in the ways of the forest, the ways. Also, you know all the arts of speech. I should have picked you up and hanged you from a sapling in the way into the forest. I should have fed your flesh to the locust bird, ravening eagle and vulture. Now, Enkidu, my release lies with you. Tell Gilgamesh to spare my life. Enkidu opened his mouth to speak, saying to Gilgamesh, my friend, Humbaba who guards the forest of cedar, finish him, slay him, do away with his power. Humbaba who guards the forest of cedar him, finish him, slay him, do away with his power. Before Enlil the foremost hears what we do. The great gods will take against us in anger. Enlil and Nippur, Shamash and Larsa establish forever a fame that endures how Gilgamesh slew ferocious Humbaba. Humbaba heard what Enkidu was saying. He lifted his head and Humbaba opened his mouth to speak, saying to Enkidu, you sit before him like a shepherd, like his hireling, and doing his bidding. Now, Enkidu, my release lies with you. Tell Gilgamesh to spare my life. Enkidu opened his mouth to speak, saying to Gilgamesh, my friend, Humbaba who guards the forest of cedar, finish him, slay him, do away with his power. Before Enlil the foremost hears what we do, the great gods will take against us in anger. Enlil and Nippur, Shamash and Larsa establish forever a fame that endures, how Gilgamesh slew ferocious Humbaba. Humbaba heard and bitterly cursed them. May the pair of them not grow old. Beside Gilgamesh's friend, none shall bury Enkidu. Enkidu opened his mouth to speak, saying to Gilgamesh, my friend, I speak to you, but you do not hear me. While the curses, let those curses return to his mouth. Gilgamesh heard the words of his friend. He drew forth the dirk at his side. Gilgamesh smote him in the neck. Enkidu, wow, he pulled out the lungs. Springing up from the head, he took the tusks as booty. Rain and plenty fell on the mountain, and plenty fell on the mountain. A different version of the slaying of Humbaba and his minions, but better preserved, is given in an old Babylonian tablet from Ishkali. Said Gilgamesh to him, to Enkidu, now, my friend, we must impose our victory. The oars slip away in the thicket. The oars slip away, their radiance goes dim. Said Enkidu to him, to Gilgamesh, my friend, catch a bird, and where go its chicks? Let us look for the oars later, as the chicks run here and there in the thicket. Smite him again, slay his servant alongside him. Gilgamesh heard the words of his companion. He took up his axe in his hand. He drew forth the dirk from his belt. Gilgamesh smote him in the neck. His friend Enkidu gave encouragement. He fell. The ravines did run with his blood. Humbaba the guardian he smote to the ground. For 2 leagues afar, with him he slew the woods. He slew the ogre, the forest's guardian, at whose yell were sundered the peaks of Syrian and Lebanon. At the mountains did quake, and the hillsides did tremble. He slew the ogre, the cedar's guardian, the broken. As soon as he had slain all 7 of the auras, the war net of 2 talents weight and the dirk of 8, a load of 10 talents he took up. He went down to trample the forest. He discovered the secret abode of the gods, Gilgamesh felling the trees, Enkidu choosing the timber. After a gap, the text of Tablet 5 resumes. Enkidu opened his mouth to speak, saying to Gilgamesh, my friend, we have felled a lofty cedar whose top thrusts up to the sky. I will make a door 6 rods in height, 2 rods in breadth, 1 cubit in thickness, whose pole and pivots, top and bottom, will all be of one piece. At this point, Tablet 5 is badly damaged. A better preserved version of the episode is known from the old Babylonian tablet of unknown provenance, now in Baghdad. He went trampling through the forest of cedar. He discovered the secret abode of the gods. The wild-born knew how to give counsel. He said to his friend, by your strength alone, you slew the guardian. What can bring you dishonor? Lay low the forest of cedar. Seek out for me a lofty cedar, whose crown is high as the heavens. I will make a door of reed length's breadth. Let it not have a pivot. Let it travel in the door jamb. Its side will be a cubit, its reed length, its breadth. Let no stranger draw near it. Let a god have love for it. To the house of Enlil the Euphrates shall bear it. Let the folk of Nippur rejoice over it. Let the god Enlil delight in it. The text of Tablet 5 resumes for the final 3 lines. They bound together a raft. They laid the cedar on it. Enkidu was helmsman, and Gilgamesh carried the head of Humbaba. Tablet 6, Ishtar and the Bull of Heaven. Back in Uruk, Gilgamesh's beauty provokes the desire of the goddess Ishtar, and she proposes to him. Gilgamesh scorns her, reminding her of the fates suffered by her many former conquests. Ishtar is enraged and rushes up to heaven. She persuades Anu, her father, to give her the fiery Bull of Heaven, the constellation Taurus, so that she can punish Gilgamesh with death. The Bull of Heaven causes havoc in Uruk, but Gilgamesh and Enkidu discover its weak spot and kill it. They insult Ishtar further and return to the palace in triumph to celebrate their victory. He washed his matted hair, he cleaned his equipment, he shook his hair down over his back. Casting aside his dirty gear, he clad himself in clean, wrapped clothes around him, tied with a sash. Then did Gilgamesh put on his crown. On the beauty of Gilgamesh, Lady Ishtar looked with longing. Come, Gilgamesh, be you my bridegroom, grant me your fruits, oh grant me. Be you my husband and I your wife. Let me harness you a chariot of lapis lazuli and gold. Its wheels shall be gold and its horns shall be amber. Driving lions in a team and mules of great size, enter our house amid the sweet scent of cedar. As you enter our house, doorway and footstool shall kiss your feet. Kings, courtiers, and nobles shall kneel before you. Produce of mountain and lowland they shall bring you as tribute. Your goats shall bear triplets, your ewes shall bear twins. Your donkey shall, when laden, shall outpace any mule. Your horse shall gallop at the chariot in glory. No ox shall match yours at the yoke. Gilgamesh opened his mouth to speak, saying to Lady Ishtar, and if indeed I take you in marriage, body and clothing, whence would come my food and sustenance? Would you feed me bread that is fit for a king and pour me ale that is fit for a king? Who is there would take you in marriage? You, a frost that congeals no ice, a louvre-d'or that stays not breeze nor drought, a palace that massacres warriors, an elephant which its hoods, bitumen that stains the hands of its bearer, a water skin that cuts the hands of its bearer, limestone that weakens a wall of ashlar, a battering that destroys the walls of the enemy, a shoe that bites the foot of its owner. What bridegroom of yours did endure forever? What brave warrior of yours went up to the heavens? Come, let me tell you the tale of your lovers, of his arm. Demutsi, the lover of your youth, year upon year to lamenting you doomed him. You loved the speckled alalu bird, but struck him down and broke his wing. Now he stands in the woods crying, my wing. You loved the lion, perfect in strength, but for him you dug 7 pits and 7. You loved the horse, so famed in battle, but you made his destiny whip, spur, and lash. You made his destiny a 7-league gallop. You made his destiny to drink muddy water, and doomed Silili, his mother, to perpetual weeping. You loved the shepherd, the grazer, the herdsman, who gave you piles of loaves baked in embers and slaughtered kids for you day after day. You struck him and turned him into a wolf. Now his very shepherd boys chase him away, and his dogs take bites at his haunches. You loved Ishulanu, your father's gardener, who used to bring you dates in a basket, daily making your table gleam. You eyed him up and went to meet him. Oh my Ishulanu, let us taste your vigor. Put out your hand and stroke my quim. But Ishulanu said to you, me, what do you want of me? Did my mother not bake? Have I not eaten? That now I should eat the bread of slander and insults? Should I let only rushes cover me in winter? When you heard what he'd said, you struck him and turned him into a dwarf. You sat him down in the midst of his labors. He cannot go up, he cannot go down. Must you love me also and deal with me likewise? The goddess Ishtar heard these words. She went up to heaven in a furious rage. Weeping, she went to Anu, her father. Before unto her father, her tears did flow. Oh, father, again and again does Gilgamesh scorn me, telling a tale of foulest slander about me and insults too. Anu opened his mouth to speak, saying to the lady Ishtar, ah, but was it not you who provoked King Gilgamesh? So he told a tale of foulest slander about you, and insults too. Ishtar opened her mouth to speak, saying to her father Anu, Father, give me please the bull of heaven, so in his dwelling I may slay Gilgamesh. If you do not give me the bull of heaven, I shall smash the gates of the netherworld right down to its dwelling. To the world below, I shall grant manumission. I shall bring up the dead to consume the living. I shall make the dead outnumber the living. Anu opened his mouth to speak, saying to the lady Ishtar, if you want the bull of heaven, let the widow of Uruk gather 7 years chaff, and the farmer of Uruk grow 7 years hay. Ishtar opened her mouth to speak, saying to her father Anu, already I stored, already I grew. The widow of Uruk has gathered 7 years chaff. The farmer of Uruk has grown 7 years hay. With the wrath of the bull, I shall have vengeance. Anu heard this speech of Ishtar. The bull of heaven's nose rope he placed in her hands. Down came Ishtar, leading it onward. When it reached the land of Uruk, it dried up the woods, the reed beds and marshes. Down it went to the river, lowered the level by 7 full cubits. As the bull of heaven snorted, a pit opened up. 100 men of Uruk fell down in it. The second time it snorted, a pit opened up. 200 men of Uruk fell down in it. The third time it snorted, a pit opened up, and Enkidu fell in as far as the waist. Enkidu sprang up and seized the bull by the horns. In his face, the bull spat slaver. With the tuft of its tail, Enkidu opened his mouth to speak, saying to Gilgamesh, his friend, my friend, we vaunted ourselves in our city. How shall we answer the thronging people? My friend, I have tested the might of the bull, so learning its strength and knowing its purpose, let me test again the might of the bull. I shall get myself behind the bull of heaven. I will seize it by the tuft of the tail. I will set my foot in the back of its leg, in it. Then you, like a butcher, brave and skillful, between the yoke of his horns and the slaughter spot, thrust in your knife. Enkidu rushed round to the rear of the bull. He seized it by the tuft of the tail. He set his foot on the back of its leg, in it. Then Gilgamesh, like a butcher, brave and skillful, between the yoke of the horns and the slaughter spot, he thrust in his knife. After they had slain the bull of heaven, they bore its heart aloft and set it before Shamash. Stepping back, they fell prostrate in the presence of the sun god. Then both of them together sat down. Ishtar went up on the wall of Uruk the sheepfold. Hopping and stamping, she wailed in woe. Alas, Gilgamesh, who mocked me, has killed the bull of heaven. Enkidu heard these words of Ishtar, and tearing a haunch off the bull, he hurled it toward her. Had I caught you too, I'd have treated you likewise. I'd have draped your arms in its guts. Ishtar assembled the courtesans, prostitutes, and harlots over the bull of heaven's haunch. She began rites of mourning. Gilgamesh summoned all the smiths and craftsmen. The size of the horns the craftsmen admired. 30 minas of lapis lazuli in a solid block, 2 minas each their rims, 6 core of oil the capacity of both. He gave them to his god, Lugalbanda, to hold oil for anointment. He took them in to hang at his chamber. They washed their hands in the river Euphrates, that took each other by the hand, and in they came. As they drove along the streets of Uruk, the people were gathered to gaze on them. Gilgamesh spoke a word to the serving girls of his palace. Who is the finest among men? Who is the most glorious of fellows? Gilgamesh is the finest among men. Gilgamesh the most glorious of fellows. Gilgamesh made merry in his palace. At night, the men lay asleep on their beds, and Enkidu, as he slept, was having a dream. Enkidu rose to relate the dream, saying to his friend, Tablet 7, the death of Enkidu. In a dream, Enkidu sees the gods in assembly decree his doom. In anguished delirium, he pictures before him the great door of cedar he made for Enlil's temple, and he curses it because it has failed to secure for him the god's favor. He then turns his thoughts to the trapper and the prostitute, the instruments of his introduction to civilization, whom he also blames for his plight. Shamash persuades him to relent, and he returns to bless the prostitute. He has a second dream in which he is dragged down to the netherworld by the god angel of death, and granted a vision of hell. After describing the dream to Gilgamesh, he falls sick, languishing on his deathbed. He complains to Gilgamesh of the ignominy of his fate, compared with death in battle. He dies. My friends, why were the great gods in council? What followed the opening line of tablet 7 is still not recovered. The missing episode is known from a fragmentary prose paraphrase written in Hittite, which was based on an older version of the epic. And dawn broke. Enkidu began to speak to Gilgamesh. My brother, this night, what a dream I dreamed. The gods Anu, Enlil, Ea, and celestial Shamash held assembly. And Anu spoke unto Enlil. These, because they slew the bull of heaven and slew Humbaba that guarded the mountains, dense wooded and with cedar. So said Anu, between these two, let one of them die. And Enlil said, let Enkidu die, but let not Gilgamesh die. Celestial Shamash began to reply to the hero Enlil. Was it not at your word that they slew him, the bull of heaven, and also Humbaba? Now shall innocent Enkidu die? Enlil was wroth at Celestial Shamash. How like a comrade you march with them daily. Enkidu lay down before Gilgamesh. His tears flowed down like streams. Oh, my brother, dear to me is my brother. They will never raise me again for my brother. Among the dead I shall sit. The threshold of the dead I shall cross. Never again shall I set eyes on my dear brother. The text of tablet 7 resumes with Enkidu's delirium. Enkidu lifted his eyes as though to the door. He talked with the door as if with a man. O door of the woodland that has no sense, I have understanding that you have not. For 20 leagues I sought for you the finest timber, until in the forest I found a tall cedar. Your tree had no rival in the forest of cedar. 6 rods is your height, 2 rods your breadth, 1 cubit your thickness. Your pole and your pivots top and bottom are all of one piece. I fashioned you, I lifted you, I hung you in nipper. Had I but known, O door, that so you would repay me, had I but known, O door, that so you would reward me, I would have lifted my axe, I would have cut you down, I would have floated you down as a raft to Ebabara. To Ebabara, to the temple of Shamash I would have brought you. I would have set up the cedar in the gate of Ebabara. In its doorway I would have stood Thunderbird and Bull Colossus. Your entrance I would have placed. I would have the city, Shamash, and an Uruk, because Shamash heard what I said, and in time of peril he gave me a weapon. Now, O door, it was I who fashioned you, who lifted you up. Can I now break you up? Can I now tear you down? May a king who comes after me bear for you hatred, or hang you where you cannot be seen. May he remove my name and write upon you his own. He tore out, he cast it. As he listened to his words, all of a sudden his tears were flowing. As Gilgamesh listened to the words of Enkidu, his friend, all of a sudden his tears were flowing. Gilgamesh opened his mouth to speak, saying to Enkidu, my friend, in preeminent, do you, who had understanding and reason, now speak profanity? Why, my friend, does your heart talk profanity? The dream was special, great the anxiety. Your feverish lips were buzzing like flies. The misgivings were great, the dream was rare. To the one who survives, the gods leave grieving. The dream leaves sorrow to the one who survives. The great gods I'll beseech in supplication. Let me seek out Shamash. I'll appeal to your God. In your presence, I will pray to Anu, father of the gods. May great counselor Enlil hear my prayer in your presence. May my entreaty find favor with Ea. I will fashion your statue in gold without limit. My friend, give no silver, give no gold, give no. The word Enlil spoke is not like the gods. What he commands, he doesn't erase. What he sets down, he doesn't erase. My friend, fixed is my destiny. People go to their doom before their time. At the very first glimmer of brightening dawn, Enkidu lifted his head, lamenting to Shamash. Under the rays of the sun, his tears were flowing. I appeal to you, Shamash, for my life so precious, as for the hunter, the trapper man, who let me be not as great as my friend. May the hunter be not as great as his friend. Destroy his profit, diminish his income. May his share be cut in your presence. The house where he enters, may its God leave by the window. After he had cursed the hunter to his heart's content, he decided also to curse Shamat the harlot. Come, Shamat, I will fix your destiny, a doom to endure all eternity. I will curse you with a mighty curse. My curse shall afflict you now and forthwith. A household to delight in you shall not acquire, never to reside in the midst of a family. In the young woman's chamber you shall not sit. Your finest garment the ground shall defile. Your festive gown the drunkard shall stain in the dirt. Things of beauty you shall never acquire. Of the potter, no shall you have. No table for banquet, the people's abundance shall be laid in your house. The bed you delighted shall be a miserable bench. The junction of highways shall be where you sit. A field of ruins shall be where you sleep. The shadow of a rampart shall be where you stand. Thorn and briar shall skin your feet. Drunk and sober shall strike your cheek, shall be your plaintiff and claim against you. The roof of your house no builder shall plaster. In your bedroom the owl shall roost. At your table never shall banquet take place. Because you made me weak who was undefiled. Yes, in the wild you weakened me who was undefiled. Shamash heard what he said. Straight away from the sky there cried out a voice. Oh, Enkidu, why curse Shamhat the harlot, who fed you bread that was fit for a god, and poured you ale that was fit for a king, who clothed you in a splendid garment, and gave you as companion the handsome Gilgamesh. And now Gilgamesh, your friend and your brother, will lay you out on a magnificent bed. On a bed of honor he will lay you out. He will place you on his left on a seat of repose. The rulers of the underworld will all kiss your feet. The people of Uruk he will have mourn and lament you. The thriving people he will fill with full of woe for you. After you are gone, his hair will be matted in mourning. Clad in the skin of a lion, he will wander the field wild. Enkidu heard the words of Shamash the hero. His heart so angry grew calm. His heart so furious grew calm. Come, Shamat, I will fix your destiny. My mouth that cursed you shall bless you as well. Governors shall love you and noblemen too. At 1 league off, men shall slap their thighs. At 2 leagues off, they shall shake out their hair. No soldier shall be slow to drop his belt for you. Obsidian he shall give you, lapis lazuli and gold. Earrings and jewelry shall be what he gives you. Ishtar, the ablest of gods, shall give you entrance to the man whose home is established and wealth heaped high. For you, his wife shall be deserted, though mother of 7. As for Enkidu, his mind was troubled. He lay on his own and began to ponder. What was on his mind, he told his friend. My friend, in the course of the night, I had such a dream. The heavens thundered, the earth gave echo, and there was I standing between them. A man there was, grim as expression, just like a thunderbird. His features were frightening. His hands were a lion's paws, his claws an eagle's talons. He seized me by the hair, he overpowered me. I struck him, but back he sprang like a skipping rope. He struck me, and like a raft capsized me. Underfoot, he crushed me like a mighty wild bull, drenching my body with poisonous slaver. Save me, my friend. You were afraid of him, but you. He struck me and turned me into a dove. He bound my arms like the wings of a bird to lead me captive to the house of darkness, seat of Akala, to the house which none who enters ever leaves, on the path that allows no journey back, to the house whose residents are deprived of light, where soil is their sustenance and clay their food, where they are clad like birds in coats of feathers and see no light but dwell in darkness. On door and bolt the dust lay thick. On the house of dust was poured a deathly quiet. In the house of dust that I entered, I looked around me, saw the crowns in a throng. There were the crowned heads who'd ruled the land since days of yore, who'd served the roast at the tables of Anu and Enlil, who proffered baked bread and poured them cool waters from skins. In the house of dust that I entered, there were En priests and Laga priests, there were lustration priests and the Lamahu priests, there were the great gods, Gudapsu priests. There was Etana, there was Shaka, and there was the queen of the netherworld, the goddess Ereshkigal. Before her sat Belitseri, the scribe of the netherworld, holding a tablet, reading aloud in her presence. She raised her head and she saw me. Who was it fetched this man here? Who was it brought this fellow? The remainder of Enkidu's vision of hell is lost. At the end of his speech, he commends himself to Gilgamesh. I who endured all hardship with you, remember me, my friend. Don't forget all I went through. Gilgamesh, my friend saw a vision which will never be equaled. The day he had the vision, his strength was exhausted. Enkidu was cast down. He lay one day sick, then a second. Enkidu lay on his bed. His sickness worsened. A third day and fourth day, the sickness of Enkidu worsened. A fifth day, a sixth, and a seventh, an eighth, a ninth, and a 10th. The sickness of Enkidu worsened. On 11th day and a 12th, Enkidu lay on the bed. He called for Gilgamesh and spoke to his friend. My God has taken against me, my friend. I will not die like one who falls in the midst of battle. I was afraid of combat, and, my friend, one who falls in combat makes his name, but I do not fall in combat and shall not make my name. The description of Enkidu's final death throes, which no doubt filled the remaining 30 or so lines of Tablet 7, is still to be recovered. Tablet 8, the funeral of Enkidu. Gilgamesh offers up a great lament for Enkidu. He summons his craftsmen and makes a funerary statue of his friend, and from his treasury he selects the grave goods that Enkidu will take to the netherworld to win the goodwill of the deities who dwell there. As part of the wake, a great banquet is held, and then treasures are offered to the gods of the netherworld and ritually displayed in public. At the very first glimmer of brightening dawn, Gilgamesh began mourning his friend. O Enkidu, whom your mother a gazelle and your father a wild donkey did raise, whom the wild asses did rear with their milk, whom the beasts of the wild did teach all their pastures. O Enkidu, may the paths of the forest of cedar mourn you without pause by day and by night. May the elders of teeming Uruk the sheepfold mourn you. May the crowd who gave us their blessing mourn you. May the high peaks of hills and mountains mourn you, pure. May the pastures lament like your mother. May boxwood, cypress, and cedar mourn you, through whose midst we crept in our fury. May the bear mourn you, the hyena, the panther, the cheetah, the stag, and the jackal, the lion, the wild bull, the deer, the ibex, all the beasts of the wild. May the sacred river Ule mourn you, along whose banks we walked in our vigor. May the pure Euphrates mourn you, whose water we poured in libation from skins. May the young men of Uruk the sheepfold mourn you, who witnessed our battle when we slew the bull of heaven. May the plowman mourn you in his furrow, when he extols your name with his sweet yodel. May the of teeming Uruk the sheepfold mourn you, who sends forth your name with the first. May the shepherd mourn you in his sheepfold, who made sweet for your mouth the milk and butter. May the shepherd boy mourn you, who provided the ghee for your lips. May the brewer mourn you, who provided the ale for your mouth. May the harlot mourn you, who anointed you with sweet-smelling oil. May thee, in your house of the wedding ceremony, mourn you, who, a wife, may mourn you like brothers. May their tresses be loosened down their backs like sisters. For Enkidu, your mother and father, on this very day I myself shall mourn you. Hear me, O young men, hear me. Hear me, O elders of teeming Uruk, hear me. I shall weep for Enkidu, my friend, like a hired mourner woman. I shall bitterly wail. The axe at my side in which my arm trusted, the dirk at my belt, the shield at my face, my festive garment, my girdle of delight, a wicked wind rose up and robbed me. Oh, my friend, wild ass on the run, donkey of the uplands, panther of the wild. My friend Enkidu, wild ass on the run, donkey of the uplands, panther of the wild. Having joined forces, we climbed the mountain, seized and slew the bull of heaven, destroyed Humbaba who dwelt in the forest of cedar. Now what is this sleep that has seized you? You become unconscious, you do not hear me. But he lifted his head, he felt his heart, but it beat no longer. He covered like a bride the face of his friend, like an eagle he circled around him. Like a lioness deprived of her cubs, he paced to and fro, this way and that. His curly hair he tore out in clumps. He ripped off his finery like something taboo. He cast it away. At the very first glimmer of brightening dawn, Gilgamesh sent forth a call to the land. O forge man, coppersmith, goldsmith, jeweler, fashion my friend. He made a statue of his friend. The limbs of my friend shall be of, your eyebrows shall be of lapis lazuli, your chest of gold, your body shall be of, I shall lay you out on a magnificent bed. I shall lay you out on a bed of honor. I shall place you on my left on a seat of repose. The rulers of the underworld will all kiss your feet. The people of Uruk I shall have mourn and lament you. The thriving people I shall fill full of woe for you. After you are gone, my hair will be matted in mourning. Clad in the skin of a lion, I shall wander the wild. At the very first glimmer of brightening dawn, Gilgamesh arose and entered his treasury. He undid its ceilings, inspecting its gems, obsidian, carnelian, lapis lazuli, alabaster. Skillfully worked, he provided for his friend. He provided for his friend. Of X plus 10 minas of gold, he provided for his friend. Of X minas of gold, he provided for his friend. Of X minas of gold, he provided for his friend. Of X minas of gold, he provided for his friend. Between them mounted in 30 minas of gold was there, he provided for his friend. Was there, he provided for his friend. Was there thickness? Was there, he provided for his friend. Large, he provided for his friend. Of his waist, he provided for his friend. 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 Of his feet, he provided for his friend. Of X talents of ivory, of which the handle was X minas of gold, he provided for his friend. Mighty of its arm, he provided for his friend. Of which the quiver was, and the handle a talent of gold, he provided for his friend. Of his arm was ivory, of which the handle was 40 minas of gold, he provided for his friend. 3 cubits was its length, was its thickness, he provided for his friend. A fine gold of carnelian, rod of iron, holder, a wild bull, for his friend. He butchered fattened oxen and sheep, piled them high for his friend. Shamash. They carried all the meat to the rulers of the underworld. The great Queen Ishtar, a throw stick of the gleaming wood. For the great Queen Ishtar, he displayed to the sun god. May the great Queen Ishtar accept this. May she welcome my friend and walk at his side. For the god Namrasit, he displayed to the sun god. May Namrasit accept this. May he welcome my friend and walk at his side. A flask of lapis lazuli for Eshkagal, the queen of the netherworld, he displayed to the sun god. May Aresh Kagal, the queen of the teeming underworld, accept this. May she welcome my friend and walk at his side. A flute of carnelian for Dumudzi, the shepherd beloved of Ishtar, he displayed to the sun god. May Dumudzi, the shepherd beloved of Ishtar, accept this. May he welcome my friend and walk at his side. A chair of lapis lazuli, a staff of lapis lazuli. For Namtar, the vizier of the netherworld, he displayed to the sun god. May Namtar, the vizier of the teeming netherworld, accept this. May he welcome my friend and walk at his side. For Hushbisha, the stewardess of the netherworld, he displayed to the sun god. May Hushbisha, the stewardess of the teeming netherworld, accept this. May she welcome my friend and walk at her side. He had made a clasp of silver, a bracelet of Kasutabat, the sweeper of Eresh Kagal, he displayed to the sun god. May Kasutabat, the sweeper of Eresh Kagal, accept this. May he welcome my friend and walk at his side. May my friend not become sick at heart of alabaster, the inside inlaid with lapis lazuli and carnelian, depicting an image of the cedar forest inlaid with carnelian. For Ninshuluha, the cleaner of the house, he displayed to the sun god. May Ninshuluha, the cleaner of the house, accept this. May she welcome my friend and walk at his side. May she, before my friend, may my friend not, nor become sick at heart. A double-edged dagger with a haft of lapis lazuli adorned with an image of the pure Euphrates. For Bibu, the butcher of the netherworld, he displayed to the sun god. May Bibu, the butcher of the teeming netherworld, accept this. May he welcome my friend and walk at his side. With a bag of alabaster for Dumudzi Abzu, the scapegoat of the netherworld, he displayed to the sun god. May Dumadzi Abzu, the scapegoat of the teeming netherworld, accept this. May he welcome my friend and walk at his side. The top of which was lapis lazuli inlaid with carnelian, for he displayed to the sun god. May accept this. May he welcome my friend and walk at his side. When the text resumes after a lacuna, the speaker is someone other than Gilgamesh, which we, their names, judges of the Anunnaki. Gilgamesh heard these words. He conceived the idea of damming the river. At the very first glimmer of brightening dawn, Gilgamesh opened his gate. He brought out a great table of Elamaku wood. He filled with honey a dish of carnelian. He filled with ghee a dish of lapis lazuli. He decorated and displayed it to the sun god. He displayed to the sun god. The rest of this description of Enkidu's funeral, which would have occupied the remaining 30 or so lines of tablet 8, is yet to come to light.